selector, hit GZ 1.1. So now, when we add our plane to be the level, it'll be just above the ground. So that's space, add mesh plane. Now we've got a plane. Scale the plane about that much. Should be good for this. Select your character again. Go down to the Logics tab. Add a sensor and set it to keyboard. Add a controller, leave that alone, and add an actuator, motion. Now, here's how the Blender game engine works in a nutshell. You have sensors, controllers, and actuators. Sensors, they pick up stuff, like if you hit a keyboard, or if you delay, you move your mouse, your character collides with something, and a lot of other stuff. Okay, so we're using keyboard for this. So we're going to use the WASD instead of the arrow keys, because most people are right-handed, and if you're doing something else on the keyboard, you'll want to do it with your right hand. So we'll use the controls to the left. Hit W, so that's our sensor. If you hit W, this sends a pulse through this wire to the controller. The controller's job is to interpret what it receives from the sensor and send the appropriate message to an actuator. So if an AND controller, when it receives a positive pulse, will interpret that and then send a positive pulse to the actuator. There are a lot of other controllers, and we'll get into those later. For now, we're just going to stick to the AND. So now, this is motion. These are the X motion, the Y motion, and the Z motion. So you have the X axis right here, Y axis, and Z axis. These are all local. Local is just the object selected. Like if we rotate this a bunch, if you want to move on the global, which is everything, you hit GZ, like that. But if you want to move on the object's local Z axis, you'll hit Z one more time, and that's the object's local Z. Same with X, Y, X and Y together, Y and Z together, and X and Z together. Okay? These buttons right here, those activate the motion to do it locally, but you can change it to globally. It's pretty useful for camera movement, but we're not getting into that right now. So this X, Y, Z, and remember how I said we're moving along the positive Y? So, set that, hit the arrow, we 0.1. So now, have our camera over here, hit the P button, which is how you go into the game engine, and hit W. See, that's how you do moving forward. Now we're going to minimize these, add another one, keyboard, so we're going to do S. S is going to have to move backwards, so you want negative 0.1. So it's going to travel not a negative distance, but along the y-axis negatively. You know what I mean? Example, W, S, W, S. But that's not very useful if you want to actually play a game. I mean, you can't move anywhere. So you've got to turn, add keyboard, a keyboard sensor, a controller, and an actuator. For the keyboard, we're going to hit A. So when you hit the A button, which will be the left key, in our simple motion, instead of doing location, we're going to do rotation, which is X, Y, Z again, except it's a lot more sensitive than location. We want 0.04 for our rotation. Connect those. Test it out. We can now move like that. But we can't move right. So now we need to make a D. So now we're going to do the same as before, except we want a negative. So negative 0.04. So that's the opposite of what we did before. And now, when we enter the game, we can move any way we want with our character. But the problem now is we don't fall. We're just floating there, which isn't realistic. The reason you're floating there is because your character is static. Static is something that's always still. And in fact, I'll even give you a dictionary definition. Okay, lacking in movement, action, or change, especially in a way viewed as undesirable or uninteresting. Not the especially part, but in the first part. Okay. Also in physics, concerned with bodies at rest or forces in equilibrium, often in contrast with a dynamic. And so, since we don't want static, we're going to make it dynamic. So now, I don't know, the buttons are phasing. I don't know what it is. I got this new computer and it's been acting up ever since. Anyways, now, that's the render button. When we hit P, we move forward, we fall. And to add a bit of realism, we hit bounds and it's got box. So we're playing. Yeah, this is a little job for rigid body, but we'll get into rigid body in episode 2. But this is how you get basic movement with your character, and we'll be using this same character in this whole tutorial series, and at the end we're going to have made a pretty awesome game together, okay? So this is FangDude, in case you didn't catch that at the beginning, or in my username. You can go to nistic.com, or forum.nistic, and it's run by Super3Boy. You may know him from other tutorials. Well, you can PM me for questions or anything, and if you want the file to follow along with this project I'm going on through, you can just send me a message on YouTube, or come on to Nistic and PM me, which is private message me. Okay? Well, see you in episode 2.